It started with Karayom. No. No, actually it started a few years ago with Anna's visit here. And you saw the, I think it was a return exhibition that you saw. And you offered to partner with Ateneo Art Gallery through, there was already an existing MOU between OCAD University and Ateneo de Manila University. The following year, we had the Fernando Sobel Prizes for Visual Arts, and the first artist they invited was Doktor Karayom. And later, we would love to hear some highlights in that residency. So that's the reason why we have university partnerships and creative practice. We also wanted to, we invited a colleague from across the Katipunan.
Across the divide.
Actually, I've known Toym since he was in high school. Hindi matangkad ka nun.
Pero atin tawag ko sa'yo nun eh.
Ate was now the Dean of the College of Fine Arts in UP, and of course the Chair of the Department of Fine Arts, Smile Indias, here in Ateneo. So maybe we can start with Anna, President and Vice-Chancellor of OCAD University, to maybe say something about the partnerships you've started as since you took on the helm of OCAD University here in the Philippines, how you've reconnected and connected different institutions to Canada.
Thank you so much, and so exciting to be here. So for those of you who don't know, OCAD University is Canada's oldest and largest art, design, and media university. It's turning 150th. Its 150th birthday will be next year. So it has this legacy and impact in Canadian culture. And I have the honor of being the first IBPOC president, or BIPOC president, depending on how you want to say that, and in particular, first Filipino president ever of any university institution in Canada. So it's a big responsibility to carry. And but what's interesting is about universities like OCAD, which is in Toronto, and most of the universities in Canada, whether that's U of T, which is again another old comprehensive university, McGill, etc., is that Canada is one of the most diverse countries in the world. So most of our students are actually come from over 35 different countries. And these are students that are actually Canadians, but second-generation Canadians that come from the Philippines, from China, from India, from Pakistan, and all sorts of other places. And then at OCAD, and in most places, the percentage of international students are around 24 to 30%. So these universities are quite diverse. So it was critical that we figure out a way to actually partner with national and global institutions from around the world so that our students could make sense of their diasporic identities and figure out how, because many of them are actually quite interested in their histories. And so by partnering with the kinds of institutions in places in Southeast Asia or South America and Europe, we're able to kind of unpack what it means to be a second-generation hybrid Canadian and offer them the opportunities to find themselves through partnerships. So we typically have student exchange programs where students can go to these institutions. But in particular, I think the thing that I brought to my position is project-based work, so that it's also institutionally focused. So it's not just the students choosing to go on exchange, but it's actually the institution saying, we will put resources to bear to bring artists and designers from elsewhere and bring them to Canada and OCAD to work alongside students and or faculty, and vice versa. Send our faculty out to work with students in other places. And we feel that that project-based work is really critical because that's how you develop more meaningful relations, institution by institution. So I think I'll end there and get people's thoughts on that.
Perhaps from your perspective as Chancellor, your respective units, and how would a partnership with that enrich what you have been doing and what you're planning to do since you just started your term?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting. It's good to be among kindred spirits here. Well, actually, we've just started to talk. I mean, that was 4 months ago, right? When I visited Canada, I visited their wonderful campus, so inspired. It's through a mutual friend that we were introduced to, and when I was told that the president is a Filipina, I need to meet her. It so happens that we were installing a monument of Jose Rizal in Niagara Falls. Yeah. And it was just like, parang I don't know, I mean, a visiting scholar, so to speak, looking beyond the shores for inspiration. So that was quite a real, it was good for the soul. As an artist, when I visited, then we had the conversation. It opened up possibilities also. I mean, I was not yet the dean at that time. When I flew back, that was a time. I was like 2 days before I left Canada. That's when I got appointed to. And well, before that, there was this another. If ever I do get it, I will make it a point that conversations, beyond the college, beyond UP for that matter, should be happening more on a regular basis. We cannot vicariously experience the art world or these conversations online only. There has to be face-to-face, real contact between various institutions. I wanted to do that, to touch base, especially with institutions abroad. It's not only for sharing possibilities for capacity building, resources and stuff, but more of like it's just joining into the conversation, the larger conversation that's happening around the world. We can be like existing in a bubble, especially UP. I mean, it sometimes it falls in love with its own ecosystem. Admittingly, yeah. And it's a good thing for a certain period of time, but we need to reach out. And I found that possibility when I talked since I cannot cross over to the United States until Trump is president. Even before him, I get profiled. But I think that the timing was just right to meet Anna when she assumed office, and we're excited about we've been talking about a lot of things. Maybe it will just pop up during the conversation, but that's how it started. It starts with just a casual meeting between creatives and let the magic happen.
Po ako in reverse kasi I remember our meeting was one of the first few potential collab meetings I attended when I assumed chairmanship, and now I am 215 days away from my freedom. So excited. But we still have yet to, I think, make formal or at least more tangible results for the collaboration. But regardless naman po, I think we have, at least Ateneo already has existing opportunities for our students, for example, to go to OCAD for JTA. But my takeaway also is, while I like the idea of exploring these partnerships, I think the reality of working in the academy is also just figuring out what the next possible option is. Parang hirap po talaga nung like, igagapang mo ngayon yung opportunities if other people don't want it for themselves. So siguro, I also want to touch on that as a now about to graduate admin person. I think people should want the opportunities for themselves instead of relying on chairs and deans, for example, to create or at least push for the opportunities. Though I think what I like about the current setup is that there are so many opportunities that we can explore. So at least in Ateneo here, I'm sure our students go on JTA, our junior term abroad, we have fellowships, we have students and faculty exchanges that can actually more. Also, one of the things I like, because we're in the arts, there are infinite ways for the collaboration to happen. So hindi naman siya kailangang a semester or a work on a specific research. You can literally just go and explore spaces and be inspired, and that already counts for a knowledge exchange. So I'm actually excited din po. Ayun nga, sabi ko kay Ma'am Boots kanina, I think we can do more if I'm not chair anymore.
Less admin work.
Yes, less admin work and more actual exploration.
You've come first, Smile. I'll see you in Toronto next year.
June 1.
Ayun ba yung end of term ba?
May 31 pa ako
Okay, so yun yung free to trip.
Correct, first day.
Yeah, before we move to we'll have Karayom's kwentos later. But I also want to, because we're looking into creative practice, one of the things that we actually, we're in the middle of planning the art fair talks for next year. And one of the concerns or topics that was raised was how is formal education adjusting or not really adjusting, but dealing with the changing technology with AI? How has your respective curricula factored in these changes that we really have to deal with? Because creativity and AI, I know there are a lot of opportunities there, but there are also threats to the rights of artists, of the creatives. So maybe if you can share if there are any strategies or plans or discussions within your respective schools.
I can start. So I'll parse this out in buckets because they're all sort of slightly different things. So in terms of copyright and rights of artists, so first and foremost, it's about arming students with knowledge about which large language models are sort of looking at issues of copyright and ensuring that they're not just scouring the internet for data that they can steal, right? And so it's about really understanding the differences between the different training models out there. So a good example of this is our relationship with Adobe. So Adobe, as many of you know, because what's going to happen, I think, is there will be these applications, let's say like ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, which are trying to be the next Google, right? But then there's also these applications that we all use as creators that's integrating AI into the application themselves. So for art, in the case of our artists, they are already working with technologies that have quite robust and ethical ways to manage copyright. So Adobe is one of them. So we are working with them to help students understand how their rights are being protected with the use of these types of technologies. So that's sort of, and that whole regulatory environment is going to resolve itself as people are suing people and people are losing. And so I think in many ways it's really about getting students to understand the issues, but then realizing that ultimately that's not actually the most important issue. Which leads us to the next bucket, which is, what the hell are these tools good for, you know? And to me, that's more of the pedagogical question. How do you use them? Are they pre-visualization tools? Are they co-intelligence helpers? Are they co-creative, environments? Or are they pure production efficiency processes, right? Those are all very different depending on what you're doing and how you're thinking about it. So our faculty members really look at very focused uses of the tools in each of their courses. And the point is to help students understand the very specific use cases of the technology and to know that it's not a one-stop shopping type of way of using it. So I think that's also very important. And I think ultimately we really can't just be an institution that says no to AI, because it is changing the way things are being thought through from a production and throughout the entire production value chain. And so our students need to be well versed in understanding how to critique these tools, how to use them properly, and how to ultimately break them so that they can create better tools.
I think even before I talk about AI, and I think I've already overthought AI, most of my admin meetings now are mostly about that, but I think there are other forces and issues that we need to talk about, at least where creative practice in the Philippines is concerned. Like, for example, our government's push to remove art app, for example, in college, I think is a problematic thing we need to confront very soon. Because if people don't necessarily develop some sort of criticality about how we consume media or how we appreciate not just necessarily art but like visual prompts in general, I think we will have a very problematic both practitioners and market or audience in the future. So I think that's one. Even before we talk about the more technical copyright issues, for example, of AI, I think fundamentally there's a philosophical relationship we need to re-articulate in the Philippines about art, doing art, and art, not just necessarily art appreciation, but the creative practice in general. But for FA, we've already developed like an FA policy on AI, where we will really just use like this stoplight method. So there are some modules and assessments where you can use AI, some you can use it sparingly, and some where you really can't. We've actually accepted the fact that we can no longer escape it. It was a long debate, I think, in the department. Many people really did not want to use AI, but it's here. I think it has shifted our pedagogy and our assessments a lot. But I think what I don't like the most is that there's just a lot of mistrust happening in the classroom. And that's what I miss pre-AI, that you just know that students wanted to be there because they wanted to learn. But now, whenever I get submissions that I know do not sound like my students, now I will have to think about the assessment and really approach it from a very skeptical standpoint. I think that's one of the things that I really problematize around AI, is just that a lot of the relationship inside the room becomes transactional, because now I can just give the assignments, they'll submit something to me, and then I'll doubt it if it's them. And so now we'll have to really rethink how we conduct the classes. We have to rethink how we conduct our assessments, maybe really see how our students go through the process. So I guess aside from AI, I also noticed how post-pandemic our students think in slides. Some of my students are here. You think in slides and in decks. So there's a lot of discomfort with unfinished thought, or like scribbles or wireframes in general, because now everything seems to be possible where you can present everything, even a rough idea can be presented in a very polished way. I think disservice yan sa practice natin, kasi part of the journey of growing into your practice is really sitting in the discomfort of your ugly scribbles. We don't have a lot of that anymore because AI is here. Canva just presents everything in a very nice way. So many things actually that we need to confront where teaching art and creativity is concerned. But I think those are the things that really consume my.
But isn't that what's cool? Because AI, because it I don't want to say devalue, but I'll use the term, it's the wrong term, but because of AI devaluating outcome as a finished product, then pedagogically we have to focus on process and critical conversations and just-in-time, real-time reflection. And so it's kind of exciting because now we can change it to the way we want to teach.
I want to say yes. I want to say yes. But I also know how unrealistic it can be when it happens in the context of the classroom. Sometimes our students are just fixated on, I wish more of you were here to hear this, but I think everyone's just fixated on getting the grade, for example, not really appreciate the value of a conversation. I think that's what I tell my students whenever I complain about them not being excited to recite, for example, because you can really just Google anything or watch everything on YouTube. But what you pay for in Ateneo, for example, is the conversation you'll have with people who will be relevant in the future, socially. Yes, not just some random internet people you'll find in the internet, but actual people who you know will be relevant in the social circles you'll want to join in and out of the campus. And so I think there's a lot of anxiety happening. So our students just want to also get to the finished product of the thought, but not really enjoy the process of doing it. I think that's what my weekly sermon is to my students, that you seem to just endure being in school. When I love school, I've not left school since I started. And so I think that's what we're missing now because everything's so automated.
Mabigat na tanong, no? Well, definitely, well, this is something that you have to face, no? I was joking with the past deans, no? Dean Mitzi was the dean during the pandemic. Dean Mark was the dean after the pandemic, no? Coming face to face again, no? And now I thought that it will be something like, okay, this is back to normal, but it's not. We're faced with another, I won't consider it a threat. No? It's a disruption. And disruption, when I say disruption, it may be positive or negative in that light. No? I often, I've been having several talks and conversation about AI and art, no? Because this greatly impacts me also because I'm a practitioner, besides being an academic. No? And I would always, use this example. Like why it's something like prophetic to a certain degree when it happened. In the past 5-10 years, or maybe less than a decade, we came back to vinyl records. There was a sudden rise of vinyl records. Why? Because we have Spotify on demand. You can easily get it. But why the fascination again with vinyl records, especially the ones who are audiophiles? It's because when I want to listen to music, I need to go home, my safe space. Once I'm home, I go to my library, my den, or my study. Then I look at my library of LPs. I strain my eyes to read the very thin titles. And once I find it, I carefully pull it out. Before I set the record on the player, I first flip through the back and front cover and appreciate the art. And then afterwards, you slowly pull it out from the sleeve. And there's a plastic cover. Pull it out again, and you see that it's a little dusty. I clean it up. Then what was that song that I wanted? It's in side B. I count. It's on the third one. I turn on my hi-fi or stereo system. Then I lay down the record. I lift the needle. I count how many grooves I need to place it because I'm gonna play my favorite song. Carefully, I laid it down, and you start to hear the crack of the static. Oops, I forgot. This should be accompanied by a cold bottle of beer. Run to the ref. Just made it in time. Dim the lights, mood lights. Sit down, listen to the music. Why is it so valuable to us? It's because vinyl records and the experience of the analog was how we were meant to appreciate at music, vibrations, not digital reproductions of the sound. No? That's how we were meant to be. The pace of how I made it was in the pace of a heartbeat. I moved along the motions of the human body. Then it becomes important to us because before we listen to the music, there was a ritual. And the ritual validates our humanity. This AI can be dehumanizing, yes. No? It just pushes. It's an adrenaline boost to the already fast-paced world that we have. And sometimes we forget that we have to still move within the pace of a heartbeat. That is why, the approach that I'm taking right now in terms of policy making is how to humanize more this technology. And Smile mentioned, the first thing is to really go against these policies of removing art appreciation, ethics. Ethics, this is the time you remove ethics from college student, di ba? Remove art appreciation. We just newly minted a creative industries law, and it's supposed to help creatives in their own profession. But removing art appreciation will kill your audience. There is no audience development. Where will be the opportunity for a college students to be required to watch a play, a musical, watch a movie, go to a gallery? You will not have that opportunity anymore. There will be no opportunity for them to discuss about the merits or the downfall of AI. I mean, all these things. Ethics, especially right now, it is more than important because, we need to humanize this technology. So that's somehow the thing that guides me right now. So like we're as a national university, it has to figure somehow in public policy. And that is why we're also one foot in government policy, working with Congress and all, and COM, CHED, and DepEd. I'm part of those conversation groups right now. And of course, the academia, in which you have to craft. Yung katatapos lang namin ng curriculum review, magre-review na naman kami. Wala yung AI dun sa conversation na yan. Pero there's a need to do so. If you don't evolve, and if you don't embrace what's in front of you, then you slowly wither away. And we need to somehow, it is in a philosophical level, encountering this powerful tool. So we need to have those conversations. We have to craft, the more that we have to have more humanities in our college education.
Will you be, if ever that happens, will it follow the leading art lab? Because
No.
UP,
UP, yes. Fortunately for us, UP is autonomous. But also, like I'm at the technical panel for fine arts at CHED, and personally, all of us are against the removal of art appreciation of the college education. When one is Vice-Chancellor, senator, he's a technocrat. We don't have that in the when I was studying in the United States. We don't need it. We need to reduce college education to 3 years. It's technically removing the arts in Bachelor of Arts. I mean, crazy.
sige, mag-segue tayo Karayom. When you were in it, did you have any, because I remember, if it's okay to share, when you got there, you got so excited with the workshops, the different parang technologies, tools that you saw, kasi di ba, inigot ka before you started your work. So, can you describe your first few days in OCAD? But also, before that, we had an online meeting with your team, Anna, Jenny, and your other members of OCAD, and they shared to us the various material workshops available for us. So, how did you focus yourself when you got there? It's
Oh yeah, alam mo, salamat po ulit. Ikaw lang po ako nandito. So yun, So,
Living proof.
ayun. So, ayun po, hindi po ako nakapag-focus doon. Kasi sobrang daming, I mean, na-ADHD lalo yung, yung utak ko. Kumbaga, parang lahat gusto kong gawin. Kasi nga, yung building pa lang nila, sobrang kakaiba na. So, yun, dun pa lang, papasok ka pa lang dun sa the building, sa lugar nyo. Nakakatuwa na. Tapos, yung dahan-dahan kang pinapakilala sa mga namamahala dun sa kada facilities na meron sila. And then, yung kala mo tapos na yung mga facilities nila, meron pa pala. Parang hanggang matapos yung floor, meron silang pinapakilalang magandang tahian, magandang casting room, magandang printing room, wood, metal, lahat na yata, yun yung parang, hindi ko makontrol yung sarili ko na parang, ang dami, alin yung pwede kong gawin dito sa loob ng 1 month, parang ganun. So, ayun, sobrang natuwa ako dun sa lugar niyo kasi parang bilang galing sa hindi nakakaranas nung ganun kakompletong mga makinarya tsaka mga pasilidad. Sobrang para sa akin, para ako nakakita ng parang nakita yung Yamashita Treasure bigla na parang, uy, ayos to ang dami kong mabibili dito. Parang ganun yung pakiramdam ko. So, yeah, yun yung unang sa akin na parang nung oras pa lang na pinapakita at pinapakilala yung mga bagay na meron sila. Parang doon pa lang gusto ko nang mag-umpisa. Parang gusto ko siyang para lang masulit yung oras na nandoon ako. So, umpisang pagpakilala pa lang at sa akin ng mga gagawin. Parang gusto ko nang pwede naman kaya ito ngayon mismo parang Sabado yun, so parang hindi rin siya wala rin gagawin sa yun po.
Meron bang mga instances that you've had with the AI application na nasubukan mo na bago sa'yo or nagawa mo? May mga na-introduce ba sa'yo na
I think ang pinaka talagang parang nasa AI mode na doon is yung 3D printing. Kasi kumbaga sobrang advanced nung mga printers nila doon na parang halos kasi laki na ng tao. Kasi dito parang pwede mo na siya mabili ng parang 2 feet or 1 feet lang siya na parang pambahay. Pero doon sa kanila parang kaya ng gumawa ng mas malalaki tsaka mga intricate na bagay. So parang yung panahon na yun yung parang sobrang sci-fi na para sa akin. Parang ganun siya. Na may ganun pala dun.
Yung ba yung pinaglaruan mo the most?
Actually hindi po parang napunta ako dun sa casting tsaka dun sa para siya sa resin area. Kasi yun nga, bilang galing Pilipinas din, ako na nung para matuto na mag-cast, kumbaga na-introduce sa school, pero syempre ikaw pa rin yung didiskarte kung paano mo siya pag-aaralan. Nakikita ko siya sa YouTube. And then, iba ang mga materyales na makikita mo sa YouTube kasi nga, sa ibang bansa, kumpleto sila and then, ang ginagawa nila is buhos-buhos lang. Compare dito sa atin, na mahal kasi yung mga usually silicone or any other casting materials, ipapahid mo siya. So, kailangan mong magtipid at kailangan mong diskartehan kung paano mo hindi masasayang since pinag-aaralan mo pa lang siya at natural na may masasayang kapag nag-aaral ka. So, dun ko siya okay, baka okay dito. Which is, nag-provide sila ng mga materials na parang ako, hindi ko siya naubos kasi nga, nasanay ako dito na sinusukat ko lang na kung ano lang yung pwede kong magawa doon sa na yun. Tapos, sabi ko lang, swerte ng mga bata dito kasi parang kaya nilang paglaruan yung sa ganung materials na available agad. Tapos parang pag sinabi nila, dito yan nabibili, tapos kompleto na lahat. Kasi dito parang more on industrial pa rin yung gamit po. Tapos kung kukuha ka ng mga ganun, craft grade or mataas na material grade, kukuha ka talaga sa ibang bansa, or kung meron man dito, mas doble or triple yung presyo niya. So yun, parang nung in-introduce sa akin ni Andrew, yung facilitator dun sa ano na yun, ito yung mga materials na, so parang napapanood ko lang sa YouTube na ito yung materials na yun, ito yung wala siyang amoy, pero maganda yung kulay niya, ganito siya. So, yun, tuwa ako, introduce yung mga machines na pwedeng ginagamit nila doon. Tapos, ayun, yun yung, nakakatawa na may ganung bagay pala. So, ganun siya.
Ano yung mga tanong ng mga estudyante sa'yo? Meron ba mga pumunta sa work area mo?
May mga nakakasabay akong mga may ginagawa. Yun pa parang nakakatawa kasi parang yung iba, may pupunta lang doon para gumawa lang ng gusto na lang gawin. Kumbaga, may nakasabay ako doon na estudyante na gumagawa lang siya ng, gusto niya lang gumawa ng isang hamburger na table. So parang, what's that for? Parang sabi niya, wala lang, gusto ko lang gumawa ng hamburger na table. So parang, talaga? So parang, sa utak ko, nakwenta ko, magkano yung materials na yan? So parang, hindi, pwede naman daw ito dito, parang ganun. Kasi meron naman sila. Tapos parang, yung iba nga daw, kailangan nang gamitin kasi baka mamaya ma-expired na or ano. So parang, wow, ayos to. So, yun. Tapos may bigla-biglang mga estudyante na bumababa na nagpapatulong dun kay Andrew na mag-cut ng ganito or mag-ayos ng framings. Tapos tatanungin ko sila, para saan yan? Wala, gagawa lang ako ng heater ng tubig. So, parang, talaga? So, natutuwa ako na parang nagagamit nila ng maayos kahit walang pasok. Pwede silang pumunta doon para ayusin yung bagay na gusto nilang gawin. So, nakakatawa siya. May ganung lugar.
What about you? What were your experience with when Russell was there, and how your colleagues, responded or saw him over there?
Well, it's interesting to hear Russell talk about the fact that he was free to use whatever materials. Does this not work? Whatever materials was available in the kind of facility with just prototyping even the silliest ideas, because I think what Russell's residency showed us is just the remarkable unleashing of creative energy of artists from outside of Canada when they are provided with these facilities. Because I won't do it justice, but you have to explain to people what you ended up making.
We're showing. Is
Yeah.
that it?
Apat.
Yeah.
So, so yung nakikita nyo, yan yung show ko sa on-site gallery, titled Walang Tao sa Bahay or No One's at Home. So, basta tungkol siya sa
Yung malaking figure, you brought it over.
hindi po, doon ko po siya ginawa. Yes po. Tapos basta yung buong pyesa na shoot niyan, nabuo ko siya within 1 week. So 100 pieces na sculpture. Basta within 1 week lang. Kasi yung 3 weeks, namasyal ako. Hindi, ayun, parang siya kumbaga.
One off-site, di ba? Parang project.
Yes po.
He did some graffiti painting on garage doors.
Yes po. Ayun, bali, ang schedule ko kasi doon, sabi ko, explore ako alam ko na may show, pero yun, wala pa akong sobrang idea ng todo. So, nag-explore lang muna ako. Inisip ko homeless ako doon. So, kahit hanggang gabi, nasa labas ako. And then, pagbalik sa condo, doon ko iniisip yung mga pwede kong gawin. And then, labas na naman ulit ako. Tapos, yun, hanggang sa ma-absorb ko yung mga pwede kong lahat na. Tapos, binigyan ko yung sarili ko na para ma-focus ko within 1 week yung productions. And then, yeah, dahil nga sobrang sarap gumawa dun sa facilities nila. Sa isang araw, halos nakakadami na ako ng mga
But
ginagawa.
Russell, tell them what it's about.
Sige.
So, yeah, ayun, yung walang tao sa bahay, ano siya, tungkol siya dun sa, parang, yung storya ng, bagong Santo Niño sa bahay niyo. Parang ganun. Parang siya, probi na Santo Niño. Yeah, po. Kasi siya, kunyari, bagong Santo Niño. Under evaluation siya. Tapos nagulat siya na parang, ang dami niyang trabaho sa bahay agad kasi ang daming gustong mangyari ng pamilya na yan. Parang ganun. Ang dami nilang hiling, ang dami nilang dasal. Tapos parang sasabihin niya sa sarili niya, tangin na bata pa ako. Parang ganun yung pinaka-story niya. So, ayun. So parang, siya yan. So, ayun. Twinitch ko lang medyo yung itsura ng character niya para hindi ganun ka-offensive sa At gumagalang din naman ako sa mga paniniwala ng iba. Tapos, ayun, yun yung pinaka-story niya na parang, nung nalaman niya na maraming problema doon sa bahay na yun, parang, tutulungan ko kayo pero kalma lang, bago lang ako dito. Parang ganun yung pinaka-idea ng story niya. Na parang, gusto niyo agad matupad yung mga wish niyo, wait lang, hindi niyo pa ako inaalayan ng juice, or hindi niyo pa ako dinadamitan ng jersey. Kasi di ba, ang Santo Niño, ng jersey, or nagko-cosplay mag-isa, ganun. So, yeah, yun yung idea niya na parang, tas ayun, nabuo na siya na parang, in 1 week, so halos lahat siya. So parang, ayan, yan po yung isa sa mga nagustuhan ko rin na machine nila is yung vacuum form. So parang dito kasi DIY siya is hinihigan siya and then vacuum. Sa kanila kasi parang may ginawa sila na kaya malaki. So parang yung tinanong ako ng facilitator na anong gusto mong gawin dito? Anong gusto mong pag-aralan? Sabi ko, ayan yung vacuum form. Kasi parang, ang hirap niya kasi achieve sa resin, na sobrang clear niya, na hindi siya pag resin po kasi naninilaw siya. Tapos ang hirap niya gawa ng molde kasi, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, kasi magdadagdag ka pa ulit ng other mold. So, gastos na naman siya. So, dagdag na naman siya sa gas. So, parang yan, parang ibababa mo lang and then, makukuha niya na yung core. Tapos, ayun, naisip ko, okay to ulo. Parang, yan, at din yung nasa loob niya is yung mga desire or dasal niya. So, kaya siya ganyan. Yung parang kung makikita ko lang kung ano yung ninanais mo. POV siya ng mismong character na santo. Na parang nakikita niya yung nais nung nakaharap sa kanya. So, ganun sila. Parang God complex na ganun yung kapangyarihan niya. Nakikita ko ano yung gusto mo. So, yun yung visualization ko. Tapos, left, right, parang yun, portrait ng pamilya. Tsaka, yung kabila is portrait, kalendaryo na pero in forms of lotto ticket. So, yun, parang para sa atin na kailan ba makaka-jackpot sa buhay, kailan makaka-angat. So, parang ganun siya. And then, yun, yung mga angels sa paligid niya is parang gusto siya, paunahan makita sila through dun sa mata ng Panginoon, parang ganun. Sana makita mo kami. Parang ganun tayo, parang paunahan tayo na makita tayo ng nasa itaas. So, tas yun, nagulat ako na natapos ko siya within and I think Ryan is kinakabahan na kung matatapos ko ba yung show or yung mga artworks within that time. Tapos, yeah, so mabilis lang po. Yung mural within 4 hours lang siya. So, sculpture 1 day, tapos yung marami within, basta inahati-hati ko siya. Tsaka kailangan kasi hanggang alas 5 lang yung pwedeng gumawa. Ay, hindi pwede. Parang ayaw ko rin parang after, sorry makita yung gabi kung anong meron sa Toronto. So, hindi naman ako nasaksak. Okay naman siya. Okay naman siya. So, yan. In-enjoy ko lahat as in kahit parang kahit mismo yung place na nagdala nila. Hindi ako sanay, ma'am, parang gano'n na. Sobrang laki kasi ng place.
Yeah.
Sanay lang ako sa maliit na studio or maliit na lugar na parang pagbungad ko doon, nagtatakbo ako. Ang laki.
Parang nakadala kaya.
Yes. So, parang ganun siya. Parang, ganito pala din na. So, ayun, parang kahit mismo yung binigay na safe space para sa akin, in-enjoy ko rin siya. Kumbaga, may time din ako na nakahiga lang ako doon, nanonood ako ng TV. Kasi parang yun yung inaano ko pag napupuntang ibang bansa na titignan ko yung TV nila, tapos kung ano merong ugali sila. Parang, kung ano meron sa channel nila, yun yung ugali nila. Parang ganun yung vibes ko. So yun, lahat. Tapos kahit sa yung mismong hinahanapan ko kung saan kumakain yung mga locals para tipid, parang ganun. So, yun, basta ayaw ko palampasin yung bawat araw na wala akong ginagawa or wala akong na-absorb na ano.
How did the audience
Well, this is
respond to this? You need to press
oh.
it.
So the I mean, it was a hit basically, the show, and I think partially because the kind of narrative that it represented, the humor, I mean, aside from the artistry of the actual objects themselves, the fact that it was this kind of really compelling story, I think was such a surprise to Toronto audiences who aren't used to that type of narrative-driven installation art before. So it was, I think it was really, really compelling. So much so that now, and this is a testament to this partnership, in a way, this story's not over because Russell generously donated the large Santo Nino to OCAD. Yeah, so the Santo Nino itself protects the administrative offices of the institution. So when you walk into the office where the presidents, all the administrators are, you're confronted by the Santo Nino, and then everyone, and the guard had to be told what the story was. So everyone would come in and say, "What is that thing?" And they'd say, "Oh, that's a Santo Nino that protects all the desires." It's getting really even more stressed because there are so many people in the building and they have to manage the desires of everyone in the building. So it's become part of our story.
Hindi ko siya.
Yes, Filipinos would know. Yes. Yeah.
Hindi ko pa siya naturo mag-English ng to.
It's learning, it's learning.
Osmosis.
That's funny. Maybe we can just build in, like, we can freak people out. I should get you to record some questions, and then I'll put a little speaker behind it, and every once in a while, like, people will come up and it'll start talking.
Parang hotline to you.
Yeah.
So, any questions from the audience? Yes. Questions?
I have two questions for the deans and then for Sir Karayom. For the deans, I'd like to ask, since you guys were talking about like yung policies, especially with AI, how would you measure like how effective the policies are? Like, do you think they're helpful? And like, are there parameters na you're looking at to see the effectiveness of these policies? And then for Sir Karayom, since you mentioned how like yung limited resources na here and then like yung sobrang daming access naman dun sa Canada, how do you think the accessibility to resources shaped your creative practice? Thank you.
You go first.
Okay.
Which is president.
Really? Okay, with regards to yung mga policies, how do you measure? Ano yung metrics natin if it becomes effective, no? Actually, it's still in the testing phase, no? Kasi we can never, it's so fast. It's version 5 na ngayon sa ChatGPT and, you know, and or you have all these generative tools na beyond ChatGPT, no? It's a wilderness out there with regards to navigating it, no? So we continue to evolve with whatever is being thrown at us. Hindi naman reactionary. That's not reactionary, but rather more of like a safari. It's a visual survey of what's out there first, no? Gathering data, and eventually will form. No? Kasi UP itself is not finalized its AI policy yet, no? Because it's still studying it. The College of Fine Arts, siguro it's more of like we agreed that we will embrace it, no? And by embracing it, like you know, a lover, you have to know each other. You have to accept individual nuances, no? Special characteristic. No? Come from two worlds and you find middle points. No? Pero at the same time that we're trying to navigate this virtual, this disruptive technology, we're creating new spaces within the college. No? We're planning out, we're reconfiguring it. It's more of a gathering spaces, no? Kasi out of the yung sa pandemic, no, meron pa rin, there's still a hangover with regards to virtually experiencing the world just inside your room. We have to bring them out. So what we're doing, ako as a matter of policy, for the longest time, our student council does not have a room. Now we were able to find one and they'll be having a room. I'm going to bring back tambayans. Tambayans are very important to a college. No? I think that humanizes the space. It's the conversations you have after classes, no? That's important. And third, yung parang sinasabi ko sa inyo, pause, places of pause, compassionate spaces of rest. No? Part of the creative process is being able to find a space, a wide space probably for that matter, in order for one to flourish, to move around, to run, to be playful. So my approach right now in developing the space, as much as we're confronting that something virtual in terms of disruptive technology, is to actually create spaces, playgrounds, like what you sinashare, you know, playgrounds for the artists to thrive in, gathering spaces, not only for the college but for the entire UP. You know? So probably in the next couple of months, that's what we'll be doing. We're creating these exciting new spaces for artists and creatives to play. So that's it.
And also because you hold another position, another hat.
Yes.
Maybe you can share.
The one, yeah.
Before being
Yeah, I chair the UP President's Committee for Culture and the Arts. So basically, it's nine campuses, no? The entire UP system. So we're creating policies. Pero right now, the focus there is to create to create art programs in every campus and to work on their strengths. No? It's also to regionalize art education depending on what area. For example, the one in Baguio, definitely it has Cordillera culture has to figure into it. What would be its strength? Cebu is very cosmopolitan, but it's also positioned as a UNESCO creative city for design. So we can mention that. Mindanao has a big Luman population, you know, and of course the inter-religion kind of environment. So each would have their individual spaces, and what we're trying to do is that to create this as also sanctuaries, to have exchanges. We're talking about exchanges probably, or relationships between, and we're trying to build relationships within our campuses. Kasi no matter how you call it UP, meron pa rin pagkakaiba na we're islands, no? We have not connected to each other, unfortunately. Each autonomously, you know. So art bridges art bridges. It's a language that any Visayan, Tagalog, Ilocano, Kankanek, or can easily. So we're starting this, hopefully these programs and this hubs in which we can gather people. No? And I think, di ba, may we have a conversation I was sharing with Sumay, no? What if we can create na parang hub on a hub of we were talking about bakit hindi pwedeng meron tayong parang ikot jeep between Ateneo and UP. Anyone can just hop in here, go to an exhibition or a talk in UP, and UP can go here. You know, just to create that synergy. And connections is very important. So, siguro yun muna, no? That's the very, very basic thing that we're trying to create as a teaching tool or a teaching approach, no? In order to introduce art to prospective creatives.
Mahirap yung naisip kong measure, baka dahil hindi nga siya measurable. But I think to me, an effective policy is if it shifts the behavior of people towards the general direction you hope them develop. Kasi nung mahirap sa policy, laging yung relationship natin sa kanya, punitive siya, di ba? So parang you follow this rule and then if you don't, parang will punish you. So carrot and stick lagi yung relationship sa kanya. But I think what we're missing is the idea that policy really shifts culture. And so if our relationship, for example, with AI is that of making sure people really grow into the practice and not really restrict people or punish people for using it, then maybe we'll be, I think, more effective practitioners. I think maganda example kasi ngayon kakatapos lang po ng show namin ng Entablado. So yung play ay tungkol sa place of resistance dahil nga entablado siya, no? So we intentionally used AI in the play because the second show is about disinformation. So when the play was originally written, so Pilipinas Kong Mahal with all the overcoat, when it was originally written, wala pang AI. It was just about the disinformation in social media basically. But now we wanted to tell students that this information will be more difficult to handle because of AI. And so in that entire process, we felt the pushback from the students, and they really argued for why we shouldn't use AI in the generation of the images that we wanted to put in the show. So kami, nung director ni Sir Jetro, parang we needed to, as in defend, parang thesis defense, dun sa executive board ng org, bakit valid gumamit ng AI in this instance. So obviously, we used Adobe software para wala yung copyright issues. We also discussed a lot about the environmental costs of doing AI or using AI images. Ang haba niya, isa siyang parang 3-hour meeting kung saan para kami pa yung nakikiusap. Kaming dalawang teacher yung nakikiusap sa isang group ng students kung bakit tama yung AI in this instance, kung bakit namin may artistic point, di ba, meron siyang may critical point na gustong ihain yung dula, why we want to use AI in the production. So I like that it's a conversation. I like that the students are very adamant about where they stand. But I also know that it can't just stop there, di ba? Parang I should know as a creative practitioner why I need to use this tool. And so if the relationship with policy, for example, is something that opens conversation and allows for people to really explore, baka mas yun. At kaya, ang hirap nung sagot dun sa tanong kasi I don't think that will be measurable, di ba? How do you actually measure an effect of a policy on a culture? Yeah.
What she says. What you have? No, I'm actually being serious. I mean, they have expressed all the things that I also agree with in terms of policymaking. I mean, if I'm kind of being Uber administrator, speaking from with an Uber administrator hat on, I think in many ways policy is about risk mitigation rather than sort of rule driven. So in essence, if it can open conversation and mitigate risk, then it's a good policy, but it's hard to figure out how to measure that.
Ano nga legit tanong?
How does access or lack of access to the resources shape your
Ayan. Hindi ko lang magandang bagay siya na hindi lahat ng bagay na makukuha mo hindi lahat ng gusto mo ay makukuha mo. So, parang ano siya eh, well, yung tinuro sa akin ng nanay ko, na kung anong available dyan, pagkasyahin mo na lang kasi wala tayong pambili. So, ganun ko siya binavalue hanggang ngayon. Na parang kahit meron akong pambili, pero kung ano lang meron ako, yun yung pagkakasyahin ko at ima-max out ko siya kung hanggang saan ko siya pwede. Tapos maganda rin siya na practice kasi kung napunta ka sa lugar na merong sobra at ang dami mong pwedeng papakinabangan o magamit, gagamitin mo siya ayon sa kailangan mo lang din. So parang hindi ka rin magiging yung disiplina mo na parang hindi ka rin magiging ganit or magagamit mo sa tamang paraan yung mga bagay na available. So parang wala rin masasayang. Parang ganun siya. So yun, yung pagiging kulang is sapat na yun para makagawa ka ng marami. So yun yung yun yung magic. Parang yan. So,
Kaya ba mabilis na rin?
ano po, yung bilis ng siguro sa bilis, kaya mabilis ako gumawa kasi yung adrenaline ko from yung roots ko, which is the street art, na parang hindi ako mahuli. So, nararamdaman ko pa rin siya hanggang ngayon na kahit gumagawa ako ng wala, parang automatic na siya na parang
Kasi kung
sunod-sunod na siya.
4 hours mo lang nagawa.
Yes po. Niloloko ko nga mas mabilis pa ako sa time-lapse eh. Kasi yung time-lapse na bumabagal ba, parang gano'n.
Kasi
So, yeah.
sa ibang residencies mo, ganun din. Yung bilis mo.
Yes po, actually,
Nagulat sila eh.
may dalawang garage door na pinahiram sa akin. Which is Tita Rica and from one side. So, Lisa, yeah. Curator din po. So, okay na yung garage niya. So, pinuntahan ko dun. Yeah, mabilis na kasi, ano lang naman siya, parang 8 feet lang naman siya. So, parang 2 hours. 2 hours siya. Tapos, which is, yung kailan, Tita Rica is, ano lang din. So, well, na-enjoy ko siya yun nga po. Parang yun yung pahinga ko eh. Kapag kumano kasi, kasi nililibot nila sa bahay nila, parang, ito pala yung bahay ng normal na Canadian. Ito pala yung buhay ng Pinoy sa Canada. Parang ganun sila. So, hindi lang yung mismong makagawa ko dun sa lugar na yun, yung ini-enjoy ko. Pati na rin yung kung paano nila ako papasukin sa bahay nila. At kahit hindi man nila ikwento, pero nararamdaman ko na ito yung buhay nila dito, ganito yung... Gusto ko nakikita na yung normal na may madumi yung bahay or may... So, ganun kasi parang pakaramdam ko yun nga, pinapasok nila ako doon sa buhay nila sa gitna. Kasi ang bawat garage door nila ay nasa pinakalikod. So, pupunta mo na sa harap para pumasok. So, makita mo muna yung buong buhay nila bago ako makarating dun sa... So, yun. Yung mga piyesa naman po is related din sa... Nire-relate ko rin sa buhay nila. So, parang ganun siya. Homage din sa kanila. So, yun po.
So, Adam, was his residency, did it, was it what you were hoping?
No. I mean, we did not expect such prolific work. So, a month-long residency, we thought there would be process work and then a talk about the process, but certainly not anything completed to the degree that it was completed, let alone 2 extra garage doors that were commissioned. So unfortunately, Russell has put the bar quite high.
Sorry po.
Yeah, so Jill Svarr is better. You may have to have a talk with her.
Well, it's a different process.
No, it is, yeah.
Any other questions?
My question specifically to Anna, and because recently I did mention this before the talk, we watched Minerva Navasca's film Sing, which was part of CBC's short film face-off this year. And one of the things that caught my attention and was really moving, I think I might show it again if you have the chance, was this idea that Filipino Canadians are trying to connect with their roots, but they seem to have the communications gap, cultural communications gap. And what struck me with your comment was the way in which diaspora, you're trying as an institution to encourage closer connections with the diaspora. So I want to speak specifically to the Filipinos who are there. Like, how are they learning about it? What are the supports that you're providing? What are the community's supports? And how could it relate to Filipinos living here? Like, how can we be of help in encouraging that?
Well, I think, it's really important to focus on this in a relational fashion as opposed to, let's say, a programmatic manner, right? And so, because, we need to, it's about creating this space for people to find meaningful connections for themselves as opposed to forcing a connection to happen, because that's never going to work anyway. So part of what we do is we bring people out who we believe might be interesting artists for them to know from the Philippines, or even Filipino American artists themselves. So not necessarily just Filipinos living in the Philippines, but Filipinos also living in other places. We also support our diasporic community in Canada. So this year, one of the largest festivals, Mabuhay TO, asked OCAD to curate an exhibition of Filipino-Canadian artists from OCAD as part of the festival. And so what we did was we commissioned 2 Filipino-Canadian OCAD graduates to do the curation, so that they did the work of trying to figure out who they should curate and how that's related. And then Francis Liberan from the Philippines came to give a talk and then met those artists. So it's that type of thing that we're trying to promote. So which means it's slow work.
It's always slow.
Yeah.
So, I think, well, siguro last, especially for Anna, we're showing OCAD on-site gallery. What other, because what we know are visual arts earlier, you were saying what other programs does OCAD have, and perhaps, because this conversation actually will eventually be uploaded in our YouTube channels, it's also good to, share more information about possibilities.
Well, I'll talk about 2 things which aren't, well, there's the design part, obviously, which we're very interested in. We have a Filipino-Canadian professor of design, industrial design, Randy Lee, and her focus is on the circular economy, and she is a finalist of the Don Norman Award, which is a pretty big deal for her initiative called Design With, which is working with young, well, not necessarily, but working with single women sewists from this community called Regent Park, typically immigrant families, and working with them to redevelop signage that you find all over the city of Toronto into new products. So they make bags, they make pouches, they make different kinds of things. And they have a store in the Eaton Center. So you can imagine that's a massive mall, and there's a circular economy product design shop that's helping support single mothers, right? So the whole thing is pretty amazing. So there's a whole sort of design focus that we have at OCAD, but 2 things that I just want to bring up is, one is the Cultural Policy Hub. So we have the only national bilingual cultural policy hub in the country. And we're very interested in kind of thinking through cultural sovereignty issues in a multipolar and highly complex geopolitical moment. And so there's a lot of work that we're doing with Global South partners. So if anyone here is doing any work around cultural policy development and what that means in today's context and how we think through notions of sovereignty while being in solidarity with other regions, these are all complicated policy issues to unpack. And then the other initiative that we're very bullish on, I co-founded this initiative. It's called Democracy Exchange Summit, and this is a set of the relationship between culture and democracy, and the need to evolve and protect democratic practices around the world. And we're working with all sorts of folks in the Philippines. Maria Reza was a key supporter of the summit. We brought her in before she won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018. So it's it deals with all the key issues that sort of destroying democracy around the world. And again, it's a very internationalist, globalist focused type of initiative. And you might think, oh, how odd that an art and design university is dealing with issues of democracy, but I actually think that is the key issue we have to deal with today.
Art will save the world.
Then last about what Karayom is wearing.
Oh, yes.
This project
Yeah.
offshoot of his residency and related to the future.
Yes. So because we're finding that Karayom is an example of the type of new emerging and mid-career artists who.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Qualified.
Young mid-career art. Okay. They are, I think, helping younger artists, even younger artists, understand that art can be in everything. So one should not be afraid of commerce, right?
Yes.
And so this is a piece that we commissioned Russell to make for us. So it says OCAD UTA's Doktor Karayom. And we're selling these t-shirts. So if you go to shop.ocadu.ca, you can buy one. And the proceeds of the t-shirts will go towards the next Ateneo Art Award residency. Yeah.
And they invited Chel Suarez, who
Yeah.
is one of the winners. So thank you for sharing. There are a lot of possibilities that were opened up, conversations as well regarding programming and policies where we could all be part of and beneficiaries. So thank you.
Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat. Yeah.
Ayun, maraming salamat po ulit sa Ateneo. Pinadala nila ako sa OCAD. So, salamat po sa inyo. Parang naramdaman ko kung paano maglaro sa iba't ibang palaruan. So, at naramdaman ko kung ano ba yung pwede kong maitulong pagbalik sa bahay. Parang gano'n. Well, kaya rin siguro nabuo itong tema na to, which is titled Planting Seeds. So, parang gano'n siya. So, sama-sama tayong mag-plants ng mga buto na aanihin natin together sa mga susunod na panahon. So, parang ganun siya. So, salamat po ulit.
Yeah.